Hello and welcome to Mr. Money. In this step-by-step tutorial, we will show you how to create a free journal to sell on Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. So the first step on your journey to publishing your journal through KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is quick market research. So what I mean by this is go onto Amazon and search for your type of journal that you want to create. Right here, you can see that I've found something similar to what we will be creating in this step-by-step tutorial. It says, Happy Confident Me Daily Journey, Gratitude and Growth Mindset Journal to boost children's happiness, self-esteem, positive thinking, mindfulness and resilience. Now this is targeting specifically children, so I will be making mine more of a broad audience but in the same style, so that adults might want to purchase the same sort of book to help them as well. And that's what we're going to create here. This is the reason why I've found this one. So if you scroll through, you can find some keywords, which is very important, but more importantly, those dimensions. This is a huge struggle for those of you that want to get started creating your journal, because you need to know the dimensions of your book before you get started. If you scroll down to the bottom of the listing which you are researching, you will find additional information. Some of that additional information can be found right at the bottom right here. Product details. The Happy and Confident Company is who's published this book. You can also see how many pages there are, and more importantly, those dimensions, which is one of the main struggles that you will have when getting started for the first time. These dimensions are something that you can have a look at, and you can go into the calculator which we're about to show you. So the next step is to go to KDP Cover Calculator. This is how you're going to get a template for your journal, and also where you can find your dimensions rather than trying to create from scratch. Now, with the competition that you've just researched, they may have selected a specific binding type. This can be paperback or hardcover. Was it a paperback book? If we go back to our example, you can see that this was, if we scroll all the way to the top, a paperback and audiobook. So it's not just a paperback, it's also an audiobook. You can see that paperback is the main selection here, the first selection. So that's the type of journal that we're going to create in this example. We're going to select paperback for the binding type. Then the interior type is the next selection. We're going to select black and white to keep things simple. Although children like things to be very colourful, we're aiming at a much broader audience. Paper type. You can select cream paper or white paper. Let's select white paper, the standard. Reading direction is usually left to right, but if you write from the right to the left, then you would do so. You would make your audience read from right to left. But because here in the Western world, most of us read from left to right, I'm going to select left to right, as I will be selling our book in those main territories. But do keep in mind, if you're targeting another country, make sure to double check if they read from right to left. Again, at this point, you can go back to your market research and you can take a look at those measurements in the product details to find out if they're used millimeters or inches. This, of course, can help you, but as you can see, this is in centimeters. So in this example, I'm going to select the hardest one to get started with, which is inches, so that you understand exactly how this works. You can also follow along, because don't worry, I'll be covering how to do this in inches. Interior trim size. Now with the interior trim size, typically it should be 6 by 9 inches. We're going to select that right now, as that is the standard for a journal book. Now it's the page count. Again, our competitors were using roughly 100 to 120 pages. So I'm going to use the same. Once you've entered this information into the calculator, calculate your dimensions. This will give you your calculations of your spine. So you get the measurements of your spine, safe areas, and more. This takes out a lot of the guesswork, and we're about to help you even further, because what you then do is you download your template. Do keep in mind, if you're on Windows, you will need to unzip the folder in order to get the images that you will need in the next step. If you're on Windows, then you don't need to worry. So we're going to use Canva to get started on our journal. Once you've unzipped your files, you will have a PNG, a PDF, and a readme txt. We're going to use the PNG file right here, and that's what we're going to drag into Canva. But before we do this, let's quickly have a look at the information. You can see that you have your paper book, read from left to right, if you selected that as well, 6x9 book, and then you have those all important measurements. Now these measurements, as you can see, are currently in millimeters. These are the numbers that you are going to enter into Canva, these ones right here. You can see 12.475 by 9.250 inches. You're also given the measurement in millimeters if you want to try millimeters instead, as well as the other measurements of your spine, book, and the type of book that you're creating. Let's enter this information into Canva. Once on canva.com, if you have a free account, you can follow along just the same, or alternatively, for more assets and access to more features, you can use a pro paid version of Canva. In this example, it doesn't really matter, as you will be able to follow along just the same using either or account, except you will have more assets available to you if you're using the Pro. We're going to select custom size here. This is where we're going to enter our measurements and create a new design. You can see in units are currently in pixels, but we can select inches, millimeters, or centimeters. Now keep in mind, we also have the millimeters measurements. If we go into inches, we can enter it in inches. Let's do millimeters in this example. So I've copied the measurements from the PNG that has been provided, and then on select create new design. Now we have our overall dimensions. At this point, you need to drag your PNG file into Canva, or alternatively, go to the side menu, tap on uploads, and then you can upload it from selecting the upload files in the menu. What you will notice is once it's uploaded successfully, you should see that from the menu on the left hand side, you can drag the edge and it will fit perfectly on Canva. Another trick we're going to use here is we're going to tap on the image, go up to the top bar, select transparency, and we're going to make it slightly invisible. So the important information you need to pay attention to in this template are the lines. So as you can see, you have a spine. You also have where the spine folds, and that is the dotted line. The hard black lines, as you can see here, is where your book will be cut to. Then you have the white areas where you can add your images, text, and more. And you can see all of this information that I'm currently reading to you right here, which will be on your template. So anything that you're unsure about, you can actually have a big, nice reminder right here when you're creating your images. And you have this in the background while you're placing things on top. For example, we're going to go into shape right now. So I'm going to select a shape. I'm going to go to elements, and then from elements, I'm going to select a square. And this square, I can color a different color. Now it's selected a color from our template here. If I want a completely different color, maybe a yellow or a black, let's select a black here, and I can reshape this so that it actually fills where the spine of the book is. If I want a sort of design that matches that, if I'm unsure of where the spine is when I'm doing this, or I'm going over anything that I shouldn't be going over, you can always make it slightly transparent so you can see what you're covering. So now I can see what I'm covering, and I can also zoom into the image to have a closer look. So you can see the fold of the spine of the book. So I want to get those measurements looking right. So that looks about right to me. And I'm also going to go all the way down, even past the cut of the book. I'm happy with that. And I also have quite a few other designs that I've created using some AI. So you can use AI to create original images as opposed to gathering something that's available on Canva. So if you go into something like Midjourney or even inside of Canva, you can use AI. So first, let's get that transparency back to normal so we can see the black bar. Make sure it's not covering where the barcode sits. And then if you go into apps, you can go into AI powered, and then you can generate AI images with the right application. So right here, you can see that we have anime art style, image dreamer, and there should be right at the very top. It's not here for me right now because I've already got it. Magic Media. You can actually search Magic Media. This is an application right here that will allow you to generate AI art. And as you can see, you have a variety of styles that you can select from. So if we go into see all, you can see the different types of AI generated images that you can generate. For example, you can do mid-century if you wanted a sort of illustrated type of generated piece of art. And right here, let's say I wanted something like a smiling sun. I could generate this in this style, mid-century, maybe watercolor, generate the image, and in a few moments that image will be generated, an original design that you can use and create right here on Canva for your journal. And you can have this as a part of your front cover. Just an example of how this can work for you. If you don't have a transparent background, you can always generate that as well. You can also remove the background of images on Canva if you are an experienced user, or if it's your first time, you can always try a few things out to see what you can do with your images. Now, this could be a part of your book that we've just created here. You can also search for different things and add text from scratch, and there are different variety of text and more that you can create. You can also color your entire front cover and back cover in a color. For example, if we just slightly remove our template image by resizing it, select the background, we can now tap on the background color, which can be the color of your entire book cover. And here you can see there are some pro tools right now where you can remove the background of an image. You can tell that it's a pro feature because if we scroll in, there is a crown on the corner of what we're about to select here. Alternatively, you can try one of these for free. Now we have a sun image on the front cover of our book. Of course, you can always add text as well to your book front cover. Keep your competition in mind, get designing, and you can create a cover in no time using Canva. You can always go back to Amazon to take a look at the different types of covers that have been created so that you have an idea of what you can do. You can also use templates in Canva. That's a brilliant way to get started. Let's show you exactly what I mean. So if we go into the front cover of Canva and then we search for Kindle book, you can see you have a variety of templates to choose from. Now, some of these are pro, but when you've made a selection, let's say, for example, you have this one here, you can see that the rest of the background is black. So even if it's the wrong size, you can always make the background of your book cover black so that it matches. For example, this one right here is a pro template. I'm going to select it, customize it, and I'm also going to export it. Let's show you exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to export it exactly as it is. Beautiful woman illustration. Going to give it a share. Then I'm going to go into download. Now at this point, you want it to be a JPEG or a PNG, not a PDF. So let's select PNG in this example, and you can see a size that you can export it at. If you're unsure of the size, don't worry about this because we can select download. Alternatively, you can also use transparent background if you're a pro Canva user. So if you're using a paid version of Canva, and you can do this by deleting the background color and selecting this option during your download. Instead, we're going to do this as if we're using Canva for free, and we're going to select download. Now, of course, you can change all these things of your front cover. You can change the titles and more, and you can download that to go towards your front cover because Canva has this really cool tool where you can match colors. Let's show you what I mean. So let's go back into our front cover here. We're going to delete everything that we currently have. I'm going to resize that template slightly. I'm going to get our download. I'm going to place it on the front cover. Now I'm going to resize it. Hopefully it fits. I'm also going to use that transparency. So I'll use that transparency to make sure I can see exactly what I'm doing. Now we have moved the template. So what I'm going to do at this point so that it doesn't get too confusing, I'm just going to tap on the background, select background color, and Canva has this really cool feature where it actually recognizes the colors of any images you've dragged into your project. So right here is the background color of the image that we've just dragged and dropped into our template. Now our background is the same color as this image. Let's move the template back, and now we can resize our image, and it won't matter exactly the size or where it's placed because all of the background is the same color. So as long as you get this roughly in the center, change that transparency, you now have a front cover, just like that. And that's one way you can get started with your journal inside of Canva when creating your front cover. So what about the interior? That's what we'll get into next. Here's some really important information when you're creating the front cover and back cover of your journal. As you can see here, the template is still visible. We don't want this as we've now finished our design. If you're finished, select that image of your template and either delete it or make it completely transparent. That way you're left with your final design. On the left is the back cover. On the right is the front cover. Imagine it wrapping around your book. That's what this is. Once you're done and you've used no copyrighted images, you haven't used company images, game company images, magazines, you've shied away and stayed away from all of those sort of things that you cannot use in your monetized product, and you're using original content that you've created and you've finished, go to the share icon in the top right hand corner, making sure you've named your file beforehand. So here, let's name this cover example. Select share, downloads, and then select PDF print for your file type. You can then go through the color profile of your front and back cover and select RGB, best for digital use. CMYK is best for professional printing, but is only available with the Pro version of Canva. So if you're doing a Kindle version of your journal, RGB will be the best option to select. You can select this as well for the printed version of your book. Once you're happy here, select download. Brilliant, got it. Then we're on to the next step, starting on the interior of your book. So let's show you how to get started on the interior pages of your book, of your journal. On the KDP Amazon.com website, you can find more information about the bleed and margins of your interior pages. I'm going to scroll down here and give you a little bit of the information that is currently available so that you understand what a bleed is, as this will be important when you're adding any images. And you can see an example of how your images will be cut for your book and what makes the measurement correct for you when you're creating your interior pages is the bleed. The bleed needs to be added so that you know the margin between your image and the end of the book. Ideally, you want your image to look like this when you're creating your interior pages if you're using any images for your book. So how do you do this when you're including a bleed? Scrolling down here, you can see examples of page size with and without bleed. If we open this up, making sure we're on the Amazon.com version, because there is an Amazon Japan version, because in Japan they typically write from right to left and not left to right, and this can change some of the measurements of the interior of the journal. We're going to select Amazon.com in our case, and you can scroll through the different page sizes from what you have selected for your calculation. So we've calculated our journal book to be 6 by 9, and these are the measurements in centimeters. This, next to it, is the same measurement, but with a bleed added to the page, so that when you're creating, you know where the bleed should be on your page. This is the measurement of the interior page when you're creating a 6 by 9 book for Amazon. And you can see the measurements without a bleed and with the bleed. So you can see the measurements of the page with the bleed. This is what we're going to enter into Canva for our interior page, as we need a 6 by 9 measurement with a bleed. Now that we know what a bleed is, so let's get those measurements into Canva. So let's go into Canva first, select custom size, and this is where we're going to enter those measurements. We're going to make sure we're selecting centimeters to match what we have over here. If you're unsure or you cannot find this page, I'm going to zoom in now, and you can pause the video right here on Mr. Money so you get that value if you're following along. This is what you need to enter right here. Now in inches, it should be 6.125 for the width, for the height 9.25, and you can see the measurements over right here. But what about centimeters? Let's try and do this right now. So we'll do this to show you how this is done. I'm going to copy and paste in this example. So for the width, 15.56. So right here, I'm just going to change the units to centimeters because there is a slight difference here, and you can see it because it's trying to go for the same sort of size and it's been converted to centimeters. So that is the centimeter width. And then for the height, 23.50. So let's take that with a nice copy and paste, going back over and entering this into the height. Now let's create our base template. So we have the correct size, but we need to know where the bleed is. I'm going to teach you what to do next. Follow along carefully. So let's make this really easy to understand. You will set an inside gutter, and what that is, if we go back to Canva, is the space between the inside of the book where it folds and your content. So what you've written or any pictures. There should be a space here known as the inside gutter margin so that the reader can see all of the contents. So if you've written anything, they can see all of it. It's not sinking into the book, known as the gutter. You also have an outside margin, which is on the right side of the page. Because we've set the size of the book and how many pages it should have, this will decide the margins that we can work inside of. And that's what we're going to set right now, because we've added a bleed. And the reason why we've added a bleed is because we will be using images in our book. If you use an image on at least one page of the inside of your book, then you will need a bleed so that all of the measurements for the book are cut correctly. We're about to set those margins now so that when we're adding our images, we can lead over the trim line and the text will be inside of the margins. Much like what you're seeing right here. This is when you're adding your bleed to your book. Your image will go over the line so that when it's cut, everything will be inside of the margins that we're about to set. So now that we know what our margins are, so that our content will always be in the center of the page and will be measured correctly, let's set them and select the right ones. So as you can see, page count also makes a difference. The reason why the page count makes a difference is because if you have a really large book, you would need to fit all of the pages in the binding, and meaning that you would need to turn the page and the reader needs to see everything in the center of the page. So with more pages, it will be a different size margin. So here you can see our selection. We have 120 pages for our journal. So this is the page count. The inner or inside gutter margin should be set at 0.375 when you have a bleed. If you don't have a bleed because you don't have any images at all, then you would go for this one. We're going to use images in this example, so this is what the inside margin should be set at. Let's do this in Canva. So right now the question is, how do we set our margins in Canva? What you need to do first is go up to File, Settings, and here you have a few options. You can show margins, show rulers and guides. In this example, let's select show rulers and guides. Brilliant. Now we can set our margin. So as you can see, we need 0.375 inches for the inside gutter. And then you will also need this for the outside margin. Inside of Canva, now that we have our ruler, let's drag the end. And as you can see, we have a number at the top of the screen. It needs to be 0.375. Now we might need to zoom in here as we're on 0.3. So let's zoom in. I'm using the trackpad to do so. And it's going to be very difficult for you to get that spot on. We can get 0.3. Now you won't be able to get it spot on, but you can see right here, we're over the 3 mark. If we go any further, it would be 4. So roughly, you want to be somewhere in between this space here at 75%. We now have our first margin set. And then we're going to use a little trick to save you some time. So go into Elements, select a square shape, and you're just going to drag your square shape into that margin, resize it so that you have a square which sits inside of the margin. As you can see, we're sitting inside the margin right here. And then we're just going to drag that, as you can't go any smaller than that. You're going to drag that to each of the edges. That way, you have your next measurement ready. Let's go to the outside of the box. There we go. We're going to move the box again to the far side. Going to do another margin. Going to do the same for the bottom. And then delete your square. And now we have our margin set. The lines of your margin will not appear in your final piece. You can also add some more guides. By going to File, into Settings, you can see that you can also add Show Print Bleed. And as you can see, this also shows the print bleed right in the center of the margin. Now let's add some lines. Go over to Elements and you can search for lines. I've recently searched for lines and you can see one here. This is a free available line that you can edit. Let's search for it again just to show you how this works. You have dotted lines and you have a full line. You also have some paid versions of this graphic. We're going to use one for free as we're showing you how to do this all for free. Now let's change the weight of the line so it's not as thick. Select line style and change this to 1 or 2. Now we're going to change its length. And with the line selected, you want to press those 3 dots for more and then select copy. You're also given the shortcut for copy and then paste. So first copy, and you're going to paste this 25 times. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do another 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to highlight all of these lines, go to more, and under space evenly, select tidy up. Now what you can do here is you can actually group all of the lines together. Now you can move and stretch those lines so it fills your page. You can also move them around, and you can ungroup and change them like this. One thing that I recommend is using the options that are available on Canva, like selecting more, and then you can align it to the page by top, bottom, right, or left. But when moving things in Canva, you will also be given these lines, which will show you the position of the element you are moving. You can see that one of our margins have moved. So you can always select another square and use the method that we used earlier on to put things back in line. If you wanted to add an image, you can do this. But remember, we also have our bleed and our margins. We need to go over the bleed so that the image is cut within the parameters of our journal or book. So in this example, let's select an image as I've already uploaded. Here's an image of myself that I'm going to resize. But notice how our lines that we have now used are now overlapping. So consider using the crop tool while making things transparent so that the writers have a full line. I also recommend zooming in so that you can see exactly what's going on. Now the bleed line is where the image will be cut. You can also add individual line images to your journal. For example, if we go into elements and we type illustration or flower illustration right here, we can find some line art, just to give you an idea of how you can work on the internal pages of your journal. But remember, we selected black and white, so this image would be in black and white and not color. So keep that in mind. Remember, you can also make your lines slightly transparent by selecting the transparency and bringing it down to roughly 50%. In this section at the top, you might consider writing something like a message to the reader so that they'll understand or have an idea for what to write on this page. But this is an example of an interior page. Once you've completed all of your pages, or you've completed a page, you then go to share, download, and then under the file type, you want to go for PDF print. I advise also downloading a PDF standard. Name your page so that you have an idea of where to add it later on when you go to Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. Then once you've completed, come over to Kindle Direct Publishing, select create, follow it step by step, creating a paperback for example. Enter the information about your book. Remember your research at the beginning. Use that towards your created book, your journal. You can also add additional optional information like an edition number, your author information, your description full of those keywords which will help you rank higher on Amazon. For example, mental health was one of the keywords of the journal that we're creating. Relax is also another, and those are the types of words that you want to use in your description of your journal or book, which will help your readers or your buyers find your journal. Then tick the applicable boxes like having copyright of the images, and that's the reason why we've generated the images or created them from scratch, as this creates a unique copyrighted piece of material for yourself to use. And then follow along, enter your pages into Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, enter those keywords to help you rank higher and sell more journals. If you've enjoyed this video on how to publish your journal through Kindle Direct Publishing and create it using AI and Canva, then give this video a thumbs up, like this video, and subscribe to Mr. Money for more. Thank you for watching.